Friends, it's always a challenge to deal with a disparate group. While many of you are professionals in the knowledge sector, I think there are also quite a few. I see a few young people who aspire to be civil servants in this country. And I see quite a few other entrepreneurs in other sectors and a variety of other people. So I'll try and make a few general remarks. I would not like to bore you with a detailed lecture on leadership. Actually, this theme apparently was chosen by Amit and Ankur because they were inspired an extempore speech I delivered some 2.5 years ago at Dr. Kasturi Rangan's request in Bangalore to a group of civil servants, very hardened, somewhat cynical, highly experienced, and somewhat self-important group of civil servants of my own former tribe. But I thought it still is a relevant topic. The moment they suggested this, I agreed with that, fell in with that, because if there is one critical challenge in this country, both politically and societally, it is building leadership. So I thought that might well be a good theme for us to explore many issues of contemporary relevance in this country. As I was coming here, on my way I was reflecting. What's happened in the past 100 years in this country in terms of leadership? 100 years ago, 90 years ago, 80 years ago, we had Dadabhai Naoroji. I'm sure some of you remember the name, the grand old man of India, a man of exceptional ability. And he wrote books. As a leader, 120 years ago or so, he actually wrote books in this country, and that was his claim to fame, based on intellect, on evidence, on logic, on passion, and compassion. And of course, you had Tilak, a towering intellect, and a man of unmatched passion. You had Chittaranjan Das, an extraordinarily brilliant person who many people don't realize that before Gandhi there was a freedom movement, and there were people who inspired this country incredibly. And Chittaranjan Das was a rage in many parts of India at the time. Mahatma Gandhi, unparalleled, it doesn't require repetition, his name or his work. Subhash Chandra Bose, Chittaranjan Das's disciple, who as a young man of 27 years of age in 1924 was picked up by Chittaranjan Das as the municipal commissioner of Calcutta. I don't know if many people are aware, Bose resigned from the ICS because he could not stand the idea of serving the foreign master, and then was picked up by Das despite some feeble opposition from the British governor at the time as the commissioner, as a citizen without any formal paid public servant's position. He was picked up as a commissioner by Das. Das insisted that he must have the right to pick up a person of his choice as the chief executive of the corporation during his time. And Bose did an outstanding job. 9 months later, Bose was arrested for something unrelated to his official work. Because Subhash Bose participated in Mahatma Gandhi's non-cooperation movement, and therefore the British arrested him and jailed him. And Das went to the British government, the governor at that time again, and said, look, you allowed me to hire the services of a youngster, not an ICS official, to govern the premier city of the British Empire. And he did a great job, everybody acknowledges that. And now for an unrelated cause, not because of his failure to perform his functions, he was arrested. I don't want to fight on that issue. That's about the freedom struggle, so I'll take that out of our discussion now. But as far as I am concerned, he has been picked up by the duly elected municipal corporation. And as long as those duties are discharged by him fairly, he shall continue as the municipal commissioner. I don't know how he do it, I don't care. Now, the governor was quite nonplussed. But because Das had extraordinary stature, the governor gave an unusual order. The British government's order said, as long as Subhash Bose is in jail, he was at the time in Alipur jail in Calcutta, he would still continue to be the commissioner of the city, and the files would be circulated to him on a daily basis, and his orders shall be obeyed like those of any officer on duty. There is actually such a government order existing, and that practice continued until Subhash Bose was moved to Mandalay jail. After some time, he went to Mandalay in Burma. Obviously, that practice could not be continued. And of course, Subhash Bose's own life is the stuff of legends. There is almost no village in Andhra Pradesh without a statue of Subhash Bose. I was in a village, Munnalur, just 4 days ago. A small village of about 1,200 population. There is a Bose statue there. Or take, of course, Nehru, Patel, the man whose contribution to India's nation building is probably unparalleled. Even Gandhi cannot really claim the same degree of contribution in terms of institution building, in terms of integration of India. That 500 plus princely states could be integrated into independent India in a very short span of a few months, without a rifle being fired, without a shot being fired, without a drop of blood being shed. And that he could carry conviction with both the civil services, which served him with distinction and loyalty, the princely states, and of course the people of India at large, apart from his own party, a very fractious party, may I add. Or our own Prakasham Panthalu, or Rajaji. You can go on and on. But there is a set of common characteristics among all these great Indians. They were all men of towering intellect, and women too. There was Sarojini Naidu, who some of you may be familiar. She actually lived in this city for quite a bit of her life, in Golden Threshold, which is now a part of the University of Hyderabad. That premises has now been handed out to the University of Hyderabad. Durgabai Deshmukh, from this very city and this state, she built Andhra Mahila Sabha. She is one of the great institution builders, and even today, apart from the Smanya Graduates Association, it's the only institution that I know of in Andhra Pradesh which does not fight for power and position, which actually does some serious constructive work. You can go on and on. These are all men and women of towering intellect. They were all persons of great learning. Those were the days when learning was supposed to be an attribute of leadership. And of course, common sense. Each of them had abundant common sense. Compassion. Most important of all, they were very inspiring persons. Now imagine today a person combining all these qualities. There are a few, I'm sure, still left with these qualities in this country in various walks of life. But can you really imagine that any one of them would actually rise in our political environment today? You may have all these qualities in any walk of life, but not in Indian politics, not in public life. If 100 years ago, the political field was hospitable to the brightest and the best, 100 years later, with greater literacy, greater economic progress, greater access to technology and communications, and greater understanding of the global practices, how come we don't allow leadership of great quality to actually flourish today? I would like to weave my theme around this central question. I don't think there's anything more important for contemporary India, because there cannot be progress, there cannot be growth, there cannot be harmony without leadership of the highest quality. And somehow we think if the dregs of humanity enter politics, if they continue to do what they do all the time in this country, or at least they've been doing the past 30, 40 years, that's perfectly all right. We can give up on that. We can keep on criticizing and complaining, but we don't have to nurture leadership build leadership, promote leadership, and create an environment conducive to the growth of right kind of leadership. Is it then a surprise that we have such a terrible situation in the political domain, in the public domain in this country?